Hello everyone and welcome back. This is Kindergarten Social Studies, Lesson 11, and I am Miss Phelps. In the past couple of lessons, we've been talking about community and what community means. Does anyone remember what community means? That's right, a community is a group of people who live in the same place and work together. And there were 3 types of communities. Do you remember what they are? They are urban, suburban, and rural communities. Now, remember, urban communities are going to be cities. Cities that have a lot of buildings close together. People's yards usually aren't very big. There's a lot of traffic, and they also have very tall buildings called skyscrapers. Can you say that with me? Get your arms moving too. Ready? Skyscrapers. Then we had suburban communities. Now, suburban communities are going to be just outside the city, and those are going to be towns. They have a little bit more space. They have a little bit less people, right? And then we have our rural communities. And a rural community is going to be way far away from the city, out in the countryside. Remember, rural means country, right? You're going to see houses very, very far apart. And not very many people are going to live there at all. In fact, you may even see some farms. Now let's go over our essential question for today's lesson. What is special about our community? So let's start with, what is our community? Do you know the name of our community or the place where we live? It's Rochester. Let's write it down. Ready? This is the name of our city. Our city is called Rochester. Now I'm going to be reading for you from one of my favorite books. I know I say that about every book, but this book is called I Love Rochester, New York. And on the front, you'll even see a picture of our city, of our community, right? Now within Rochester, there are smaller communities as well, but we're just going to talk about Rochester, the big city, as a whole for right now. Notice you see lots of tall buildings and they're all very close together, right? Do they look like they have a lot of yards or a lot of space? No, not really. So let's go through this book together, and I'm just going to point out a few of the things that make Rochester, that make our community so special. With the water of the Genesee River to run power mills and the Erie Canal to take product to the market, by the mid-1830s, Rochester was producing 500,000 barrels of flour annually, more than any other city in the world. This right here, this is a flour mill wheel. In 1815 to 1816, a small canal called Brown's Race was constructed to bring water to the flour mills, situated on the west cliffs of the Genesee River Gorge north of High Falls. Have you guys been to High Falls? I've been there. It's really very special. That is also that is some old millstones. They used to go into our flour mills, and that's why we were originally called the Flour City, as in the flour that we eat and cook with. Because we made more flour than any other city in the entire world. But now we are called the Flour City for a different reason. Now we are called the Flour City as in the flowers that we can see everywhere. Do you recognize this picture? This is from the Lilac Festival at Highland Park. You may have been there. It is a very special festival in our community where we get together and we celebrate how beautiful all of the lilacs in Highland Park are. the Lilac Festival at Highland Park in Rochester, New York. Its shades ranging from white to dark purple, over 1,200 lilac bushes representing about 500 varieties or different kinds of lilacs cover a hillside in Rochester's Highland Park. The first bushes were planted in 1892, and it's the park's first Lilac Festival was held 6 years later. Now the Lilac Festival is held in mid-May and draws 500,000 people each year to enjoy the color, fragrance, music, and crafts. How beautiful is that? Now we are known for flowers. Here's something else special about our community. Have you driven past or walked past these houses? These houses are on East Avenue. This is where all of the rich people in Rochester used to live a very long time ago, and they built these gigantic mansions. The first people who built these houses were originally the people who owned those flour mills that we were talking about. But eventually, they started to be people who owned any kind of successful business. This right here is the George Eastman house. George Eastman is the person who built and created the Kodak Company. That is another thing that Rochester is famous for. And here you can see the Kodak Tower. Now this was originally the headquarters for the Eastman Kodak Company that was built in 1913. Now it houses many different things, including another charter school. Isn't that interesting? That's something super special about our community. There's also a family of bald eagles that lives at the top. And we are most famous, one of the things we're most famous for is our colleges and our higher education. We have 2 of the best colleges in the world, and then also several other colleges that are smaller and still very nice. This right here is a picture of the University of Rochester. They are one of the best medical colleges in the entire world. We also have the Rochester Institute of Technology. That is a college that specializes in a couple of different things. Their main thing, of course, being technology and science, but they also have wonderful art programs and an amazing business school. We also have several other colleges, including the Monroe Community College, which is the best community college in the country. There's also Nazareth College, which is not in the city of Rochester, but very close by in the town of Pittsford, as well as St. John Fisher College, which is the sister college to Nazareth. Rochester is also famous for our music and our arts. We have 3 amazing theaters, but this one is the biggest and probably the most famous one. This is Eastman Theater. Remember George Eastman? He's the guy that built Kodak, right? So he had a lot of money. So he donated it to build help the city build the Eastman Theater. Inside it has some large, beautiful chandeliers, and it currently houses the Rochester Philharmonic Orchestra, as well as other shows such as Broadway productions and other music that just comes to town and wants somewhere fancy to play. We also have 2 other theaters that are very nice. We have the Auditorium Theater and the Jiva Theater. Is that we are close to Lake Ontario. And aren't these pictures beautiful? Lake Ontario is one of the Great Lakes, which means it is one of the biggest lakes in the world. We are on one side, and Canada is on the other side of this lake. I love getting to talk about our city with you today. Rochester is a very special community. It's where we all live and work together. And please send your teacher a video of you sharing 2 things that make our community special. They might be things that we talked about in here today, but they also might be things that you and your family think about. And they might be some things that are different or unique specifically to your neighborhood, and that is totally okay as well. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video.